Hello guys and welcome back to Tabletop Assault. My name's David and today we're going to be giving you a sort of first impressions of the new Space Wolves supplement Codex for 9th edition Warhammer 40k. Now we're not going to cover all the elements that have changed in from 8th to 9th edition Space Wolves. Some you already know, but we're going to cover off some of the things which I spotted which are really nice for you Space Wolf players out there, and some stuff that may cause a little bit of debate. As with any new edition, people are going to love it, some people are not going to love it so much. But yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff that's probably been updated. Now please bear in mind this is not a full codex, this is a supplement, so it's a good combination, this supplement, with the overall Space Marine one that landed in 9th. So like obviously a lot of main data sheets for your core units are actually in the Space Marine Codex. This just has your sort of unique thing, in particular your characters, your Thunderwolf Cav, and some nice new stuff. So yeah, let's actually crack into it. So you've obviously got all your new data sheets, which is really nice. You've got your brand new stratagems, and there's about 2 pages of unique Space Wolf stratagems, and you also have your Crusade rules, your Warlord traits, your ability to make your own sort of combination of successor chapters, and then you also have your relics and special issue war gear. Now, again, in this one, we're not going to go over everything to do with Space Wolves, but a couple of things we do want to point out. So we're going to come to the sort of stratagems and relics towards the end. We're going to crack off by actually going straight into data sheets. And you know what? Let's talk about the big bad one himself, and that is Logan Grimnar. Now, Logan Grimnar, in the start of 8th edition, didn't get a lot of love, especially on the Storm Strider. He was quite vulnerable. They eventually, towards the end of 8th edition, fixed that by giving the Hunters Unleashed rule, so when he was in combat using his big, strong, double strength version of his Axe of Mordecai, he was no longer really getting penalised for the -1 to hit. That sort of changed entirely. We still have the Hunters Unleashed rule, which is awesome for Space Wolf players, but Logan Grimnar's had a little bit of a buff. So what I'm going to do here is just bring up some of the comparisons that I noticed. So on foot, Logan Grimnar, a couple of key changes. 8th edition, Logan Grimnar was 7 wounds. He's still 7 wounds here. However, the wounds characteristic for the Storm Strider has changed quite considerably. So on foot he's 7 wounds, but on the Storm Strider he goes from a mighty 12 wounds to 14 wounds, which I think really helps for that survivability. Everything else is kind of as you'd expect. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 2. Your strength and toughness is obviously 4 and 4 when he's on foot. It's strength 4 but toughness 6 when he's on the Storm Strider. Nothing really much has changed there. And there's still a key core 5 attacks with Logan either on foot or on Storm Strider. And the saves are still the same. 4 up invul, 2 up armor, leadership 9. But we're going to reverse a second and go back and talk about the attacks. If you remember in 8th edition, when Logan was using his Axe of Mordecai, if he used the ×2 version, he was -1 to hit. His two-handed Axe of Mordecai. That has actually been removed. There is no longer a -1 penalty when he uses the Axe of Mordecai ×2 strength. Hey, I'm loving it. Let's take it. So you can go with your sweeping version where you get an additional 2 hits. If you choose now to use, it's called one-handed, so each time an attack is made with a weapon profile, make 2 hits instead of 1. Again, it's +2 strength, -3, 1 damage, which is different to the one-handed version in 8th, which was D3 damage, but it's 1 damage, but you are getting those extra attacks, so it's really good for killing those 1 wound models, dealing with some hordes. The ×2 version is pretty much still the same. ×2 strength, -3, 3 damage, but we're no longer suffering that penalty to hit. A key difference, however, if you remember on the Storm Strider, the wound characteristics that Logan had would also have an impact on the additional attacks made from the Flurry of Teeth and Claws. That's no longer impacted. The wounds characteristic no longer determines how many additional attacks, it's just a straight 6 additional attacks that Logan gets now with Flurry of Teeth and Claws, making him quite efficient. So if you want to go for horde killing, you can put out a potential of what, that's 7, 13 attacks. I'm sure there's a couple of other combinations in this book to make that above that. Okay, it's only going to be 1 damage, but there's lots of attacks. The only thing that now deteriorates with his wounds characteristic is naturally movement is still going from 10 inches to 7 inches to 4 inches in the Stormstrider, but that's about it. That is about it. No longer do those additional attacks change. Obviously Logan's been updated with the Chapter Master rule, which is pretty nice. So he has Rites of Battle, which impacts Space Wolf core units, so reroll hits of 1 doesn't impact him himself, which I think we all decided the new core rules it works quite well. But he does have the Chapter Master rule, which was kind of hinted at in the Space Marine Codex, which is in his command phase, Logan Grimnar can pick a Space Wolf core or Space Wolf character unit within 6 inches of Logan Grimnar, and that unit, until the next command phase, gets to reroll hit rolls. Rather than rerolls of 1, it's just reroll hit rolls. So Chapter Master is no longer a sort of aura as such, it's just select a unit in your command phase and have a party with them. So yeah, that was quite a nice wee addition there. Not much has changed for Niall Stormcaller, but I won't really go into that too much. I should actually mention, what's the points of Logan Grimnar, guys? Logan Grimnar, where are you, my friend? So Logan Grimnar on foot is 155 points. Logan Grimnar on the Storm Rider is 180 points. Some may disagree. I think that's quite good value for money there for Logan. I'm not going to go over all the characters for Space Wolves because there is so many, but there's another key one I want to talk about next, and this is a personal favourite of mine. And oh boy, this is hurting a little bit. So this is one of the characters that I did mention, or one of the units I felt people may not be so happy about, and that's Arjak Rockfist. So Arjak Rockfist was that absolute beast of a character that could take down anything. So Arjak Rockfist, what's really changed? Well, stat line wise, nothing has changed. He's still 5 wounds, which I think he should have 6. Considering other Terminator characters in the Space Wolf Codex are averaging around 6. So I'm very disappointed in that, but 5 wounds, okay, that's fine, we can move on from there. Foehammer has changed ever so slightly, guys. So Foehammer, when he shoots with Foehammer, it's still 12 inches, assault 1, it's times 2 strength, minus 3, 3 damage. Each time an attack made with this weapon is allocated to a character or monster, you add 1 to the damage characteristic, basically making it damage 4. Now that you might think is a lot more efficient than it was previously, because previously it was D3 damage, but against characters and monsters it was 3 damage. So now he's going to hit those characters and monsters much harder, much harder. In melee, it's pretty much the exact same as what you do when you throw it. It's going to be 4 damage against monsters and characters, times 2 strength, minus 3, 3 damage. Where Arjak's had a slight additional nerf beyond the wounds is actually the abilities. Now Arjak had a whole ton of abilities. He's still kicking about with the Anvil Shield of a 3-up invul save, but the Anvil Shield no longer reduces damage that he suffers by 1. It's just a 3-up invul save now. Additionally, we have the Champion of the Kingsguard rule. Now that has also changed. So as before, the Champions of the Kingsguard rule also used to give additional attacks for Wolfguard units within 6 inches of Arjak. That's been removed. What happens now is Kingsguard, all it does is allow Arjak to reroll hit rolls when he is against characters. So that's all the Champion of the Kingsguard rule now does. He's now got what's called Tactical Precision. So Tactical Precision, I guess, is taking a combination of the old rule, Thane of the High King. It's now converted into Tactical Precision, which is an aura ability of 6 inches for Space Wolf core units. For Space Wolf core units within 6 inches, they basically get to re-roll wound rolls of 1. So not much has changed there, except for it's no longer really impacting Arjak. It's just Space Wolf core units. Tactical Precision is giving him that aura ability. That's it. That's all Arjak does now. He's no longer that really incredible Wolfguard buff you want to take. He's had a slight change in the way that he is survivable, because he no longer reduces damage, and I still think having the same wounds as 8th edition is a bit criminal. I do think he should have been 6 wounds, but yeah, he's still got that 3-up invul, which we know is now going to be quite hard to come by in 9th edition, but hey, it is what it is. So that's the 2 key characters I wanted to talk about, which was obviously Logan Grimnar and Arjak. All your usual characters are still in there, guys, but I don't want to go through them all because we'll be at this for hours. But then, moving on into the Codex, so what else do we have? So obviously you've still got all your usual units, your Grey Hunters, your Blood Claws, and your Wolfguard Terminators, but we have the nice lovely Hounds of Mordecai. Now Hounds of Mordecai is now a unique Primaris unit to the Space Wolves. Obviously you know, guys, GW has talked quite a bit about this unit. But essentially what they can do is they can ignore the Lookout Sir rule for when they're against Psykers, which is always nice to have. And they get sort of additional buffs for attacks and damages when they are attacking characters. So it's +1 attack and +1 damage, sorry, not attacking characters, attacking Psykers. Now they are a very short range melee unit, but if you can get them into combat, they're going to do some damage. Considering how they pump out a lot of attacks, 2 attacks per model. With Hunters Unleashed, you're going to be hitting on 2s. It's pretty cool, and they come with a core keyword. They're an elite choice, the Hounds of Mordecai, but it's pretty nice to know that they are sort of your go and hunt down a Psyker. So my 1,000 Suns are going to be absolutely terrified with that. A couple of nice key other abilities as well. You've got the Runic Totems for that unit. So Runic Totems, this unit can only be selected as a target of an enemy psychic power if it is the closest enemy unit to that, obviously, Psyker casting the spell. In addition, each time this unit loses a wound as a result of a psychic in the psychic phase, on a d6 roll of a 4+, we don't lose that wound. So Smites are going to find it quite challenging to kill those Hounds of Mordecai, considering they are multi-wound Primaris. And lastly, you do have the Mordecai's Howl, which is an aura ability. Enemy Psykers within 18 inches. 18 inches. Now just point that out for you Necron players. Illuminor Zaraz, why is his only 12 inches? 18 inches sounds like a good number for debuffing Psykers. Yeah, 18 inches, and they subtract 1 from Psychic Test taken. Whilst the Psyker is within 6 inches in this unit, they will subtract an additional 1. So for 18 inches, your Psykers will subtract -1 from their tests, but if they are also within 6 inches, it's basically a -2. Oh boy, 1,000 Sun players, look out. Grenade players, look out as well. A couple of other units that I think are really key and important for us to actually talk about and discuss. Well, this is one that I picked out and I was very saddened and disappointed. The Wolfen, guys. Wolfen. Where do we start with Wolfen? So, there's been a lot of changes to Wolfen. Firstly, their stat line is going to be movement 8 inches, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 5, so nothing new there. Strength and toughness 5, attacks 3 except for 4 attacks for the pack leader, and leadership 7, 4 up armor. I deliberately left out wounds there, guys, because they still only have 2 wounds. I feel that's not so good for space for Wolfen. I think they should at least be 3 wounds. Some may disagree with me there, but for only having a 4 up armor and the invul save of Storm Shields being changed to 4 up invul +1 armor, I feel that 3rd wound would have been really helpful to keep that unit viable in this edition and make it a unit that you're going to want to truck across the field. They're coming in at 25 points a model without upgrades, so it's quite a heavy investment to do Wolfen right, especially with that less survivability. I'm just going to bring up a couple of key comparisons here. So on the Wolfen as such, we have weaponry is still pretty much the same. The Wolfen Frost Claws are the same. Auto launchers are still the same. However, this is a unit that has slightly changed, with the one being the Great Frost Axe. We know Thunder Hammers already, we don't need to go for that, but a Great Frost Axe has changed. So previously it was +3 strength, -3, D3 damage, and it gave you 1 additional attack on the charge. For Wolfen, it was phenomenal. The additional attack in the charge is removed. You no longer get that with the Great Frost Axe. Everything else is the same except for the damage. It's gone from D3 damage to 2 damage. So I actually like the 2 damage. I'd rather have 2, especially when it's D3. D6 damage, I'd rather have a 3 damage. D3 damage, I'd rather have a 2. But losing that additional charge attack, again, we feel like we're punishing Wolfen here. They could use that because they're probably taking damage by the time they get into the fight. So at least if they get in the fight, each model's putting out a lot of attacks. But it is what it is, guys. And they do not have the core keyword. That's something important to distinguish with Wolfen. So a lot of those aura abilities are not going to touch Wolfen anymore. Not anymore. Moving on from there though, a couple of key changes to their abilities. One in particular, guys, that we need to notice is Death Frenzy. Death Frenzy, they still have their same abilities where they can attack before the model is removed, but they no longer ignore wounds in a 5-up. I'm crying inside because I love my Wolfen, but Death Frenzy no longer allows them to ignore wounds in a 5-up. It just allows them to attack before the model is removed from play. They've got the ability called Savage Killers as well. So Savage Killers, each time you make an attack for a model in this unit, if your army benefits from combat doctrines, the Assault Doctrine is treated as being active for your army for that attack. In addition, this unit always is treated as having made a charge move for the purposes of the Shock Assault ability. So a couple of key things there, and we'll come on to the doctrines ever so slightly. Moving on, the Wolfen Howl. So the Wolfen Howl is now the aura ability that Wolfen have. So, as before, you kind of noticed that the Wolfen had 2 aura abilities that would kind of impact either attacks or movement, just a whole sort of range of different things, a whole slew of different things. However, now the aura ability is as such. While friendly Space Wolf infantry, bikers, and cavalry are within 6 inches of this unit, you can reroll charge rolls made for that unit. While friendly Blood Claws are within 12 inches of this unit, you can reroll charge rolls made for that unit. All it does now, the aura ability of Wolfen, guys, it just is a reroller. That's it, unfortunately. It's not going to play too much of a part there, except for just getting your reroll of charges. So yeah, Wolfen, guys, I'm really keen and interested to know your thoughts on Wolfen, very much in particular, because they've had a few debuffs there. I hope it's not a sign of Wolfen being written out of the Codex, because I think the models look fantastic and it's great for the lore, adds a bit of flavour. But that's some of the key changes there to the Wolfen, and I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are. We've still got all other key units like Thunderwolf Cavalry and things like that. Thunderwolf Cavalry, a key distinction there you want to take away is they're now at 4 wounds. Really good, makes them quite a chunky unit to fling across the table and charge your opponent. And the final unit I want to touch on is the Long Fangs. We all kind of knew there was going to be changes to Long Fangs. Really what you need to kind of get here from the Long Fangs, stat wise it's kind of the same, although they're benefiting from the 2 wounds now rather than the 1 wound before. Armour is still the same, but you no longer have your I can't remember what it's called, sorry guys, but it's like your priority target. Fire Discipline, that was it. Where you choose a unit at the start of your shooting phase and you get reroll hits of 1 against that unit. They just come now with a Signum. We all know what the Signum is. You choose a model in that unit in the shooting phase and it basically gets 2+ ballistic skill. That's really all they have. They're just another Devastator unit now. I guess the key distinction you could probably make compared to Devastators is the solid leadership of 8 across the board without the need of keeping your sergeant alive, and obviously having a bit better loadout on some weaponry for your sergeant or pack leader or Wolf Guard pack leader. But that's something you might want to note there, is they just have the Signum now. They no longer have Fire Discipline. Again, there's a lot to take in this supplement codex. I don't want to focus on all of the changes because I want to leave some nice stuff for you guys to learn yourself. And if you do have any questions about any unit in particular or any rules or items in particular, just please put them in the comment section down below and I will look up the supplement codex and answer your questions. So a couple of key extra differences in rules that I want to go over next, which is under the datasheet section, abilities called Berserk Charge, Headstrong and Swift Hunters. So these are 3 new abilities which are added to your army. So I'm going to go over them for you. Berserk Charge. So if this unit has either the Hunters Unleashed chapter tactic or has the Inheritors of the Primarch successor tactic, and is using a chapter tactic of the Space Wolves, then each time it fights, if it made a charge move this turn, then then until the fight is resolved, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that model, excluding Wolf Guard models in that unit. But there you go, there's a nice way to get extra attacks on the charge. I think most Space Wolf players, you're 9 times out of 10 going to be taking that Hunters Unleashed, because it is amazing for your combat armies. The successor stuff I'll touch on later. Hunters Unleashed is still going to be my favourite, so you're probably going to have me doing a lot of charges and getting a lot of attacks. Headstrong, so if a unit does not contain a Wolfguard model, then each time this unit declares a charge, you must select the closest eligible unit as one of the targets for that charge. So let's take a quick look at Headstrong. Alright, here we go. So, from my understanding, what that's going to mean then... Yeah, so these abilities I'm reading, guys, these are common to all of your sort of Space Wolf units. So if you have a Grey Hunters pack or a Bloodclaw pack and you declare a charge and you've not got a Wolfguard model in there to keep your units in line, then you have to charge the closest enemy target, the closest eligible target. However, you are gaining the Berserk charge rule, which is also pretty nice. Your Wolfguard's not going to get it, but yeah, you're getting extra attacks, but you're having to charge the closest unit. That's fine, I can live with that. Finally, you have what's called Swift Hunters, and this is the third ability added to your data sheets. This unit is eligible to declare a charge with even if it advanced this turn. In addition, each time that unit makes a pile-in or consolidation move, models in that unit can move an additional inch. So Swift Hunters. Let's see who may benefit from Swift Hunters. Ah, okay, getting here. So Grey Hunters do not benefit from any of these abilities. However, your Blood Claws, they will get Berserk Charge and Headstrong, so your Blood Claws can get extra attacks on the charge, but must charge the closest unit without a Wolfguard. Grey Hunters do not benefit from any of these abilities. Swift Claws, that's obviously going to be your bikes probably. It's also your Thunderwolf Cavalry, because they are a fast unit. Your Sky Claws don't get it. Sky Claws get Berserk Charge and Headstrong. So it looks like your Thunderwolf Cav get it. You'll probably find, I would imagine bikes will get it as well, but I don't see any mention of that just now. But either way though, 3 new abilities, so your Blood Claws, it makes them quite relevant again. You've got a free ability where you can pretty much just fling them in and go nuts. So I quite like that. The Crusade rules I'm not going to touch on, guys, because I don't really touch on Crusade stuff. But I guess next up we have to look at your Detachment Abilities. So you've obviously got your Hunters Unleashed. For the Detachment Abilities, a Space Wolf Detachment is one that only includes your Space Wolf only models. So you all know how your detachments work. Swift Claw units in the Space Wolf Detachment gain the Headstrong and Berserk Charge ability. So there you go, that answers that question. If every unit in your army, excluding unaligned units, has Space Wolf's keyword, then every unit that has the Combat Doctrines ability and is a Space Wolf Detachment gains the Savage Fury ability. So again, if you're in the Assault Doctrine at the time, then this is going to be quite a nice buff. So Savage Fury is while the Assault Doctrine is active for your army, each time a model with this unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. Space Wolves just have a ton of fun ways to get extra hits, either it be from Berserk Charge or from Savage Fury. So that's pretty neat, I'm not going to complain about that. Moving on to stratagems. So there's been quite a few stratagems removed. One in particular was the Wolf's Eye, which was the I think it was reroll all hits or reroll all wounds. That's gone. Obviously the Lone Wolf stratagem, that is also gone. These sort of have been replaced by either equivalents or something better, but there's 2 pages of stratagems to really take from here. Now I won't go through the stratagems, but I'm going to tell you a theme that I sort of noticed. It's really all around gearing up characters or individual models or unnamed characters for battle. There's lots of cool ways to give multiple Warlord traits, Sagas and extra relics, out with the norm restrictions that you would expect from a normal army. There's a lot of key ways that you can actually achieve that. There's also a lot of, I would say, assault-based stratagems as well. And for your shooting sort of Space Wolf armies, you still have keen senses. Keen senses, as we already know, ignores modifiers to your hit rolls. Well, that now has been slightly changed. It ignores modifiers to your ballistic skill and weapon skill. However, if your army has modifiers to your charge rolls, when you put keen senses on a unit, you do it at the start of the shooting phase, but it lasts until the end of the turn. The additional benefit for keen senses now is you actually get to ignore charge modifiers as well. So that's actually quite important. You've then left with a choice of who's going to benefit from keen senses, but you're probably going to be using that almost every turn. There's a couple of extra ways to get yourself, a bit further forward by extra moves, but I won't go through these in much detail, guys. Keen senses was a nice one I picked out, and I did notice there's a lot of ways to buff up characters with extra traits and relics, and a lot of psyker debuffs. And finally, one of the final things I want to touch on is obviously the Tempestus Discipline. Again, I'm not going to go through all these psychic powers, but you've got all your usuals there. -1 to hit, your cover stuff, your D3 wounds from lightning. However, Jaws of the Worldwolf, a fan favourite, has changed, guys. Jaws of the Worldwolf before used to be you'd choose a unit and you would roll dice, and then the difference in movement compared to the dice roll would be mortal wounds. It's slightly changed. Jaws of the Worldwolf now is what's classified as a Witchfire psychic ability. So it's 7 to cast, choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker, visible, very key thing is visible, roll 1d6 for each model in that enemy unit, adding 1 to the result if the psychic test was cast with a 9 or more. For every roll of a 6+, or 5+ if your test was 9 or more, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Slight change there, but it can have its place. But you've got all your usual Tempestus Discipline in amongst there. Nothing too key. Moving on to your relics and special issue war gear. 2 in particular I want to just pull out, guys. I'm going to draw these out. Special issue war gear. Things have changed here. Frost weapon isn't really a thing you have on like your weaponry anymore. It's now something you upgrade a unit's weapon with. It's called Frost weapon. Frost weapon is really simple, guys. When you give a model this relic, select one of the following weapons that model is equipped with, i.e. Lightning Claw, Mastercrafted Power Axe, Mastercrafted Power Fist, Power Sword, or Mastercrafted Power Axe. Add 1 to the strength damage characteristic of that weapon. If the model is equipped with 2 Lightning Claws, improve the characteristic of both weapons. So a pair of Lightning Claws will get it. That weapon or weapons, if the model is equipped with 2 Lightning Claws, is considered as a chapter relic. So Frost weapon now just gives you +1 strength and +1 damage to one of your melee weapons on an eligible unit to take it. Another relic that's worth taking or worth discussing, this is one of my fan favourites of me in particular, was the Wolfen Stone. Wolfen Stone slightly changed, guys. So the bearer of the following ability, when there's a bestial charge aura, the bearer has the following ability, bestial charge. While the friendly Space Wolf core unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, you can reroll charge rolls for that unit. Now most of your core units have the bestial charge ability. Bestial charge, essentially what that is bestial charge I believe is for characters. I'm an idiot. It gives you the bestial charge ability. Sorry, my apologies, which is a new aura. So friendly Space Wolf core units within 6 inches get to reroll charges. Also, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, the bearer can invoke the spirits of the Wolfen. If it does so, select a Space Wolf unit, not core, just Space Wolf unit, within 6 inches of the bearer that has the Savage Fury ability. Until the end of the phase, each time the model in that unit that makes an attack, the additional hits scored as a result of a 6-up changes to a 5-up. So I guess that's another way to kind of get more extra attacks more efficiently. So yeah, not going to complain. Wolfen Stone, it's not as powerful as it once was, giving all units an extra attack. It's more situational now. But there were 2 key changes, Frost Weapons and the Wolfen Stone. Lastly, I want to just touch on which is Warlord traits and Sagas. There hasn't really been a fundamental change to how this works, guys. You've got your Warlord trait, and then if you achieve the Saga, it becomes a sort of aura ability as such. So one I'll just take out the bat is Beast Slayer. The Warlord trait Beast Slayer. While the Warlord is in engagement range of an enemy monster or vehicle unit, add 1 to the attack's characteristic. Each time the Warlord makes an attack against some monster or vehicle, add 1 to the attack's characteristics hit and wound roll. Okay, so that's pretty nice. Then if you move over to the Saga will do a aura ability which will only affect Space Wolf core units, and the Saga for Beast Slayer is achieved when an enemy monster is destroyed as a result of an attack made by a unit with that Warlord trait that was aforementioned. The aura is Space Wolf core units within 6 inches of that model. Each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack against a monster or vehicle unit, add 1 to the attack's wound roll. So yeah, nothing really fundamentally different to take out there. Each sort of Warlord trait has a twofold ability, and then obviously it's Saga. Once it achieves it, it gets an aura ability. Now from what I can see here, all the aura abilities will only impact Space Wolf core units when you get your Saga achieved, but your Warlord traits fundamentally are kind of the same, very similar with a few slight tweaks. And again, Warlord traits can make your character very, very powerful. So I've spoke for ages, guys. That's a couple of the key changes here, you know, to the stratagems, the units, the data sheets. There'll be a couple of pictures up as we've been speaking today, as I'm sure you've seen. You know, pause the video, rewind the video to look at those things in more details. But that's a couple of the key things pulled out. I hope you enjoyed listening. Very interested to see what you guys think of the Space Wolf Codex. So please comment, share, and like the video. We want to know all your thoughts, any questions you have that you want to know, even if it's like, David, can you tell me some details of Bjorn the Fell Handy? Can he still do this? Put it in the comment section. I'll be monitoring those and I'll be responding to them quickly as best I can. So guys, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you in another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.